Here's your news for October 11, 2019. We're starting off with some news from tonight's Smackdown, as the WWE have ironed out some of the details of tonight's draft. According to the company, the roster has been split into two separate draft pools, which means that the first 10 picks on Friday Night SmackDown won't be filled with top stars. For example, several top champions, such as Universal Champion Seth Rollins, WWE Champion Brock Lesnar, and SmackDown Women's Champion Charlotte Flair, cannot be drafted until next week's Raw, while smaller stars like Roman Reigns, The Fiend Bray Wyatt, and even Raw Women's Champion Becky Lynch will be eligible on tonight's show. Here is the list of all the potential draftees and what days they can be drafted, but since it's a long list, we'd suggest giving the video a pause so you can see when your favorite stars will be moving. Like many drafts in the past, it'll be interesting to see where several couples in the company end up, as relationships such as Corey Graves and Carmella, Andrade and Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins, and Aleister Black and Zelina Vega could all be put on different shows thanks to the draft. More news from tonight's SmackDown, as the WWE has revealed the rules as well as the celebrity involvement for tonight's show. Several Fox presenters will appear tonight, including former 24/7 champion Rob Stone, as well as SNL's Colin Jost and Michael Che, who fans may remember taking part in the Andre the Giant Battle Royal earlier this year. Longtime wrestling fans James Roday and Dule Hill will also be appearing, and older fans may remember the duo from the popular comedy show Psych hosting Raw back in 2010. Pro Wrestling's John Pollock spoke about the celebrity involvement, saying, "The celebrities will be doing spots but not actually making the picks. They are said to be spots discussing strategy and analysis. Stephanie McMahon will be in the role of announcing all the picks like a league commissioner would." WWE is hyping that, for the first time, executives from Fox and USA Network have direct influence over the WWE draft, as it will determine the superstars competing for either Raw or SmackDown, and the company have also laid out the rules for the draft. The company has stated that over 70 superstars, including tag teams, are eligible to be drafted, and while SmackDown will receive 30, Raw will receive 41. That's because Raw is a 3-hour show to SmackDown's 2, and the red brand will get 3 picks for every 2 picks from the blue brand. Tag teams will count as 1 unless Fox or the USA Network specifically want 1 star, which could lead to some very interesting breakups indeed. After the draft, any undrafted stars will be declared free agents and will have the chance to sign with the brand of their choosing. WWE is certainly making it seem like a rivalry between USA and Fox, as there has been talk of how much influence the two networks will have on tonight's show and Raw. Of course, the real question is, how will SmackDown be able to go through 30 draft picks in 2 hours and still have an entertaining show, which will be a test of time management. Though we don't know who the first draft pick will be, we do know that the first pick will be decided in a special interpromotional match, pitting Raw's Seth Rollins against SmackDown's Roman Reigns. The match, which was confirmed yesterday, has high stakes, as WWE reported. Seth Rollins, representing Raw, faces Roman Reigns, representing SmackDown, in the opening match of this week's WWE Draft episode of Friday Night SmackDown on Fox, and the victorious superstar will earn the first overall pick for the corresponding brand. The stakes are high for this showdown between former Shield members, as the Universal Champion squares off with the Big Dog to decide which brand gets the all-important first selection. Does this match confirm that the Big Dog and the Beast Slayer will be on different shows? Or will the winning brand choose the loser as their first draft pick? Only time will tell. While there's been a lot of talk about Raw and SmackDown, WWE's third brand, NXT, won't be involved at all in tonight's festivities, according to Dave Meltzer. Speaking on his Wrestling Observer radio show, Meltzer spoke about the yellow brand and tonight's draft, saying, "It was never going to be NXT. There was never even any consideration of it. It's going to be people actually picking like a football draft. It's going to be a rep or reps from USA and a rep or reps from Fox that will be doing the picking, as opposed to authority figures from WWE. They don't want authority figures right now." While Meltzer admitted that this could change, he said it's unlikely, and that the draft picks are being kept a secret even from the superstars. He said, "This could change, but the whole draft is already done. They got their battle plan. I have no idea what it is, and nobody is going to know until the day of, they're not going to tell the talent. With NXT entrenched as the third brand of WWE, it was always an interesting theory to see if the draft would allow the main roster to dip into the Wednesday night pool, and after the draft, could wrestlers at the bottom of Raw and Smackdown still move over to NXT? Tune in to find out. The last rule that was included in WWE's rules is certainly interesting, as anyone that goes undrafted can sign to whichever brand they want, and while many will choose Raw or Smackdown, this ruling does leave the option open to join NXT. It's also a great sign that WWE is doing away with authority figures, at least for the time being, as on Raw, the announcers heavily pushed the idea of USA and Fox competing for talent, and after tonight's show, it'll be interesting to see how the WWE treats the rivalry between the two networks. Even though the draft has yet to get started, that hasn't stopped both Raw and SmackDown laying out their strategies, with the Red brand having the tactical genius of Paul Heyman on their side. According to a report by WrestleVotes, Heyman has been fighting to keep Bray Wyatt on the Red brand and move Aleister Black to the show as well. On the SmackDown side of things, the folks at Fox are reportedly big fans of Roman Reigns and Charlotte Flair, so if they get their way, expect both the Big Dog and the Queen to stay on Team Blue. As noted earlier, Reigns will face Seth Rollins in a special SmackDown vs. Raw match, with the winning show getting the first pick overall. Apparently, both Fox and USA have an actual say on who will be drafted to their shows, which explains why WWE has been hyping up the budding feud between the two networks. Whatever happens, expect big changes in WWE over the next coming weeks, thanks to the WWE Draft. We're shifting our focus away from the draft now, as the Wednesday Night Wars continued this week with another win for AEW. According to Showbuzz Daily, Dynamite on TNT drew in 1.01 million viewers, netting a healthy 0.46 share of the crucial 18 to 49 demographic. While impressive, this is a considerable drop from last week's premiere, which saw Dynamite get a 0.68 ratings share while pulling in 1.4 million viewers. As for NXT, the Yellow brand had its fourth consecutive fall in viewers, with the show being viewed by 790,000 fans this week, getting a 0.22 share of the 18 to 49-year-olds. This is a drop from 891,000 viewers from last week's show, which got a 0.32 share of the 18 to 49 demo. Breaking the numbers down, the October 9 AEW got a total of 1.14 million views, 1.018 from the show on TNT, as well as 122,000 from the True TV simulcast. That means that the only NXT show that has beaten AEW so far was the September 18th show, which featured 1 hour on the network that got 1.179 million, and it's certainly not a good sign for the WWE when their highest viewed NXT episode only barely beat the lowest viewed episode of Dynamite. The final numbers for this week's shows saw AEW fall from 2nd place to 8th place for the night, while NXT dropped from 10th place down to 27th. 3 of the top 4 spots on Wednesday night were occupied by Major League Baseball playoff games and the TBS Baseball post-show, so fans will have to wait to see how both AEW and NXT do next week. Back to the main roster now, and though fans are still mad at the finish of Seth Rollins and Bray Wyatt's Hell in a Cell match, one man who knew it was coming a mile off was Vince McMahon. This week, the Wrestling Observer newsletter noted that McMahon knew the entire time he wasn't putting the Universal title on Wyatt, but he also knew he wasn't letting him be beaten either. The original plan McMahon reportedly had for the show had nothing to do with the sledgehammer, as Vince's plan was for the match to be ended with Wyatt being thrown from the top of the cell. As the Observer reported, the original idea for the finish was that Wyatt would take a gimmicked bump off the top of the cage and be unable to continue, and the match would be stopped. Then, after it was stopped, he would pop up like Undertaker and take Rollins out with the mandible claw. This would have made more sense, and it would have been a nice callback to the match between Undertaker and Mankind, but obviously it didn't happen. Once the match was stopped, fans in Sacramento bombarded the show with boos and negative chants, but the boss reportedly wasn't fazed. As the Observer noted, Vince McMahon was reportedly, and this was confirmed by multiple people, that he was laughing about the crowd reaction and hardly taking it as a negative. It'll take some doing for the company to get fans behind Rollins once again, but after what happened at Hell in a Cell, the damage may have been done. From one Cell veteran to another now, as fans may remember The Undertaker pulling out of StarCast due to his new deal with WWE. but that hasn't stopped the dead man from going to other places not affiliated with AEW. This weekend, the Phenom will appear at the Hyderabad Comic-Con in India on October 12th and 13th, though he is interestingly scheduled to appear in Scotland on the 13th at the same time. Even though he's no stranger to hectic travel schedules, appearing in two places at once may be too much for the dead man, though if anyone can handle this level of magic, it's the Lord of Darkness himself. Back to NXT now, and while the superstars may be delivering some top-quality action on the USA Network, not all of them are being left unharmed. According to WWE Now, Kushida re-aggravated a wrist injury when he faced United Kingdom champion Walter this week, and his status is listed as day-to-day. In addition, Boa also suffered a, quote, possible rib injury during his match with Killian Dane, as the Chinese star reportedly was having trouble breathing post-match, and is also listed as day-to-day. Both Matt Martell and Chase Parker have been listed as day-to-day after the beating they took at the hands of the Forgotten Sons, with Martell suffering a separated shoulder that will require physical therapy, and Parker reportedly suffering a possible jaw fracture. On the main roster, Dave Meltzer reports that Ember Moon is out with a leg injury that she suffered in her ankle or Achilles tendon, and Meltzer added that while the timetable of her hiatus would change depending on the type of injury, she'll be out for a decent length of time. Moon last competed on the September 23rd edition of Raw, losing to Lacey Evans, and we'd like to send our very best to all the injured superstars at this time. One man who is no stranger to sitting at home is Luke Harper, who fans will remember tried to quit the company earlier this year. Not only was Harper's release request denied though, but he reportedly had 6 more months added to his contract, and it seems there is still friction between the two parties. Earlier this week, Harper blasted the company in his Twitter bio, claiming that WWE had threatened to fine him, and while the biography has since been removed, it looks like there's plenty of bad blood between WWE and the former Intercontinental Champion. And finally today we're ending with some news from Sasha Banks, who is paying the price for her Hell in a Cell war with Becky Lynch. According to reports, the boss is experiencing back issues and currently not cleared for action. And yesterday, Brad Shepard reported that Banks was pulled from this weekend's live events in Odessa and Amarillo, Texas. An injury like this couldn't come at a worse time for Banks, who only returned to WWE recently, and given her star power, is expected to be a top-tier draft pick on tonight's Smackdown. WWE has kept tight-lipped on Banks' injury status, and although they won't confirm the severity, they had said that she is continuing to undergo tests for the issue, which is a very worrying sign.